don't know what to make of the name Mormon Gulch. The Mormons colonized Idaho around 1883, and now they represent about 2/3 of the population here in eastern Idaho. So probably the name was given before there were many Mormons in the area, before 1883, so that would make it a very old name. Anderson, in his 1948 work on the Lemhis, calls it Meta Basin. I don't know how he came up with that name, but in any event, Ken Torrey, I want to thank you for the wonderful weather forecast for today. Dome Peak is composed of slaty limestone. Slate is turned into dolomite towers. A mere technicality. Still, let us climb with care. The rock arêtes have opened up nicely, leaving easy walking to our third summit of the day, Dome Peak. The weather is also opening nicely. Ken Torrey, I'm sorry I picked on you. We should keep in mind in these grand, majestic mountains how small man is. Man can't. From many angles, especially the upper Snake River Valley, Dome Peak has a decided rounded, domed shape. But as we get here to the summit block, it looks rather impressive and serrated, doesn't it? It looks like Dome has three summits. The west one, the middle one, where we're at, and the east one. And according to the map and the best we can tell by line of sight, the middle one, the one we're standing on, is the high point, Dome Peak. And it's appropriate that Idaho's mountains carry the names significant to mining, because it was mining that opened up this country. Agriculture followed. The Dome Mining District stretches from this point south, and workings would include the Meta Basin, and there are mining prospects all along here, along Glove Peak, Saddle Mountain, Daisy Black, Great Western Peak, Mount Hoops, Shrill, Striped Peak, all part of the Dome Mining District. Our first summit of the day was Buckhorn Peak. We caught some snow flurries on the top of Whitebird. There you can see one of the descending dove's wings that are prominent. To our north, Swanson Peak, named for Earl Swanson, father of archaeology in Idaho, with his classic dig at the Bison Rock Shelter in Birch Creek Valley. Little Diamond Peak, Shoshone John, Big Boy, Riddler immediately behind it, and the summit of Diamond Peak, 12,197 feet, is in the clouds. We're standing on the east summit of Dome just to check this out, looking at the middle summit, which is obviously higher than the point we're standing on. We'll have to see how that compares with the west summit. It's going to be close. We will then retrace our steps to the Dome Whitebird saddle, climb up to Whitebird so that we can descend back to our starting point. From this east summit of Dome Peak, we do get a good view of Birch Creek Valley and the Beaverhead Range with Copper Mountain, West Gallagher, and East Gallagher peaks. I built summit cairns on those peaks just a couple of weeks ago. Curiosity is one of the things that brings me up here, so I just had to check out this west summit. There's the middle summit where we built the cairn and left the register, and it is the high point. And the east summit. When I told the Targhee National Forest District Ranger, Mac Murdoch, that I was running out of names for Lemhi peaks, he suggested that I name a mountain for Marshall Bear, who was a resident of Birch Creek Valley, was involved in several agricultural pursuits, pioneering family in the Birch Creek Valley, supported Dr. Earl Swanson in his dig, and I'd like to suggest that we call that 10,045-foot peak that rises out of Pass Creek Marshall's Mount. Remember that sign this morning, next gas 59 miles? Well, we haven't gone 59 miles yet. Let's hope we haven't run out of gas. Pass Creek Lake is the only lake in this section of the Lemhi Range. Back up on Whitebird, when I talk about coral-bearing limestone, can you see the striations in there made from different layers of mud? Can you imagine the top of this mountain was once the bottom of a seabed? We are descending on the north ridge of Whitebird. To that rugged saddle. Between us and Marshall's Mount. Descending into the Whitebird Marshall Saddle, this is really interesting. There's a cairn here that contains a mining claim by J.R. Carlisle Associates Inc. and Apostle, 1605 Ponderosa Avenue, Idaho Falls. That's just a couple of blocks from where I live. This is part of the old Copper Mountain mine, and Mr. Carlisle calls his claim Sarah G, and the lode mining claim was filed in 1983. I'll have to look him up. This is a rarity. We're on the Lemhi crest, and it's actually tree covered. The vast majority of the Lemhi crest is just rugged rock. Most of it not suitable for hiking. That June sunshine is a real turn on. Let's go for peak number 4, Marshall's Mount. We'll have about a 500-foot vertical scramble to get to the top of Marshall's. I think for the first time we're hiking in Targhee National Forest today. The daughter of Marshall Bear, Mrs. Jerry Tavener, works for the Targhee National Forest in the Du Bois Ranger District. Looking back, we've been experiencing some amazing rockscapes and treescapes on our way to the summit of Marshall's Mount. As the Greeks say, Sindoma Ligaki Pio Koma soon, and just a little bit more. The summit of Marshall's Mount is Dolomite. The elevation is 10,045 feet. This is the first high peak that you would encounter as you would head south out of Pass Creek. And right down in there is the pass where Pass Creek joins Uncle Ike Creek. From the summit of Marshall's Mount, we can just see the south end of the Bear Ranch in Birch Creek Valley, Long Canyon Road, and then Bear Canyon. So we've chosen the first name Marshall so that we don't have a conflict in naming, since the name Bear is already used for a geological feature. I've chosen the word mount as a play on words. Mount, you would think of a seamount, and once millions of years ago this peak probably was a seamount. Mount also signifies one of the things Marshall did best. He was an expert wrangler, and he was one of the last to round up wild horses in this part of Idaho. He passed away in the mid-1980s. His wife Marge works as the treasurer of the Clark County School District in Du Bois, and she has provided me some wonderful information and stories about the Birch Creek Valley. Now there's Dome Mountain, Dome Peak, and there are three summits: the east, the middle, the highest, and the west, not quite as high but probably more impressive looking. Whitebird Peak, now in winter, this would look like the wings of a dove or a gull. I think you can probably see the remnants. The Mr. Carlisle's mining claim was up there. There were initials BC in rock, maybe his boy. Whitebird is the most peaked looking mountain that we've been on today. That would be the Copper Mountain mining area there. And our first peak of the day was Buckhorn. There's a full beer can on top of that mountain to anybody that wishes to claim it. Our ascent route up Buckhorn went by that saddle through the quartzite rock, and we began the climb down in the forest. The awesome index sits down in Uncle Ike Canyon. The peak immediately to our north is Swanson Peak, the main crest of the Lemhi, which I've recounted for you probably several times already today, but at least we can see them now. This is Pass Creek. Marshall Bear's remains rest in Pass Creek. How fitting that we could see his land, the site where he made an impact. Marshall's Mount. And we'll leave a little register and memento. Marshall's Mount, elevation 10,045 feet, Lemhi Range, main crest, named for Marshall Bear, who in the spirit of the West made his living from agriculture at the base of this peak in Birch Creek Valley. Remains buried at Pass Creek. Built summit cairn 6/9/91. Whoops, 6/8/81, let's change that. Fourth summit climb today. I'll rest tomorrow for Father's Day. Rick Bogger, Idaho Falls, Idaho. Kirye Eleison, peak number 229. And we'll stick this in the summit cairn. All good things come to an end. Time to head down after the final summit climb. Our descent route goes by some awesome limestone formations. The miners in the 1880s did a real good job of finding surface deposits. Now we take a look at the aftermath. 110 years later, their wages averaged $3 a day. Wonder if they got rich. Was it worth it? Well, somebody must have felt it was worth it. But gosh, it must have been lonely in winter. After 4 peaks, we could use some of this. This is Rick Bogger. Thank you very much for coming along today.